Hey folks, if you've been watching our videos lately, you may have heard me mention that I'm doing another show in June. This particular one's June 10th, 11th of this year, 2022. And it is the Queen City Vintage Market being held in Regina, Saskatchewan. So, anyway, I've had some requests on what it takes to do a show, what sort of things you need to be aware of, etc., etc. So I'm going to quickly go through a few things like that. In this particular case, this show is kind of a, well, I haven't done it before. So I really don't know what to expect. Being a vintage market, I'm assuming that some of the stuff will be decorative rather than necessarily collectible. So what to bring? I don't know. It's kind of a crapshoot. I've heard that 50 stuff goes well there, so I'm going to salt my inventory with some 50 stuff and just do a general show with some higher end merchandise. Stuff that's, by higher end, I don't mean thousands and thousands of dollars. I mean $300, $400, $500 items, or $100 and up, essentially, which add up a lot faster than doing $5 and $10 and $20 items. When you're traveling a distance, you've got to make it worthwhile. In this case, it's 3 hours, 15 minutes away. A drive down the highway at 110 kilometers an hour. So, yeah, it's a distance away. So, doing a setup like that, you have to have the merchandise that sells. So it's kind of guesswork. Unless you can tell the future, you're not going to sell out. So be prepared to pack up probably at least 3/4 of your merchandise again. It's unlikely you'll sell out. Gone seem to be the days of somebody coming and buying your entire booth. I used to hear stories like that. Restaurant decorators were coming into shows and buying out entire booths in order to decorate a restaurant or for auction purposes or stuff like that. Doesn't seem to happen anymore. I would love to sell my entire booth out, but just doesn't happen. The economy isn't quite that robust, so don't expect to sell out. Yeah, the audience can be fickle, so make sure that you've got kind of a bit of a variety or know the market in that area well. Anyway, you'll also need things like tablecloths. So you're going to have to make sure you've got table coverings to kind of keep it looking classy. Some shows require certain colors of tablecloths, usually blue, to kind of have a consistent look, I guess, in the show, you could say. So be prepared to buy tablecloths or improvise with something appropriate. You can buy tablecloths from supply companies and such. So check out online. You'll be able to find those companies that supply various booth accoutrements. So when you go to order tables as well, make sure you know that you can fit all your tables into the space. Find out what their booth requirements are. Make sure that you can set up a booth rather than kind of a consistent run of tables. Usually, so far what I do is 2 booths with 6 tables total. So about 3 tables per booth, or 3 tables in each section of my 2 booth unit. Kind of 2 U shapes. And then there's usually a little gap in the back where I can hang out and keep my supplies and stuff. So it's you've got to set it up so that it's appealing and there's room for the public to move in and out, and put attractive inventory that can be seen from the aisle, kind of in the back, to draw people in. And what I found is more people at your booth draws more people. People tend to draw people for some reason. I tend to put like showcases, flat showcases and such at the very front, and or showcases in general, or things where people have to root a little bit. I have in my own inventory bins of hardware. So when people stand there and are rooting through, that attracts more people to your booth. It's just a weird fact. It tends to attract people. People attract people. It's like, what's going on over there? You know, there must be something good there if there's all these people. So watch and set up that way. And know how you're going to set up, basically. If you have problems improvising, be prepared for some stress. Some dealers basically map out their entire booth prior to the sale. I'm pretty good at improvising, so I can set up my booth just out of the boxes, and things go where they go. And after a while, you get practiced at that, and you can do that. But be prepared to spend your time setting up. Some shows allow shopping before the opening, so there's a lot of dealer-to-dealer transactions, so be prepared for that. Some dealers get upset if you're wandering around in their booth while you're setting up, so be cognizant of that and ask permission. Just make sure that they're fine with you still looking while they're setting up. And don't root through boxes. Don't root through their boxes if you're shopping while setup is happening. It's very rude, and you don't really know how they've packed stuff and such, so just don't do it. Same with going into showcases. Ask first. Some dealers are fine with you opening up a case, being a fellow dealer. Others don't want you handling their merchandise unless they're there and are able to hand it to you and be supervising. And yeah, dealer-to-dealer sales, sometimes that makes your show. You may find that if you're a new dealer or new to that area, or just generally haven't done a show before and you're not recognized as a veteran, then it is possible you'll get swamped with others that are investigating and looking at your merchandise and trying to get a deal or whatever, shopping for their stores, that sort of thing. I welcome dealer-to-dealer sales because that tends to be a lot of what the business is. Everybody has a different market for things, different areas, different buyers, different collectors, different knowledge bases. So it's worthwhile selling to dealers. Don't discount selling to dealers. Getting something to a collector is not necessarily the way you're going to make your money. Flipping it over to another dealer may be the way it happens. I'm usually not upset if somebody buys something and then puts it on their table for more. I'm aware that they're going to be making money on the item. That's why they're buying it. But some people do get upset if you are buying the item from them and then putting it on your table for more. So I would be careful about who you do that with. Like I said, some people get upset, some people don't. Some people are very well aware that you're a dealer and you're going to be reselling it anyway, so why not try at the show? But like I said, some people don't consider it a good thing. Other people are fine with it. So kind of suss out that situation. And security. Make sure your showcases have locks on them, because there tends to be thieves everywhere in society. So make sure you've got locks in your cases, just so that keep the honest people honest. If somebody is going to steal something and they're bound and determined to do it, it'll happen. Usually the shows have security. Inquire about what kind of security they've got. Usually it's the place gets locked down overnight, and there's a security guard or 2 or 3, depending upon the show and how big the show is, and how much money they're spending on things like security and advertising, etc., etc. So watch for that. If you've got something like gold, silver, or large quantities of the same, you may want to pack some of it up and put it in a secure place or carry it on your person. Be very careful about after the show about heading to your hotel room with wads of cash. There has been people robbed before, so distribute that cash in different pockets. Perhaps one dealer friend who recently passed away, but he did recommend, if you've got a wad of cash, to wad up some Kleenex in your pocket and put it over top of the cash, so it doesn't look like you've got a big wad of cash in your pocket. There's other ways to disguise that as well. Don't be flashing wads of cash around, because, like I said, could be problematic and dangerous, and yeah, you could end up robbed. I'd also say be prepared to take ETransfer in Canada. That is, we have ETransfer here, so Canadians can transfer funds from bank account to bank account. Things like Square and other apps for taking credit cards and such is probably a good idea as well, although I find that ETransfer or cash tend to be the ways for me to go. Credit cards tend to get expensive after a while with all the fees and such, so you end up losing on that end. But you may end up losing a sale if you don't have credit cards as well. But a lot of these shows, mainly it's cash. So be prepared. If you're doing some buying at the shows, be prepared with cash or have access to cash. Don't rely on the cash machines nearby, because sometimes they fail, they go down, they get emptied. That's what happened at the previous show I did. On the second day, the cash machine ran out of cash, so people were freaking out and not being able to buy what they wanted to buy because the cash machine had gone down, or rather had run out of money. And of course, make sure you bring all your extra little supplies of things, extra price tags for times when tags have fallen off of your merchandise, or if you've bought something and want to re-tag it, either buying something on the way there or at the show, or even, well, we attended a estate sale in between days on the last show. On our way to the show one day, yeah, we hit an estate sale and ended up buying a few things. So if you want to tag those things and get them sold at that show, then you've got to have your supplies with you. Make sure you've got bags. If you've got smalls, if you're selling smalls, that is. If you're selling furniture, obviously it's not going to matter. But if you're selling smalls, make sure you've got bags and extra padding, wrapping paper, that sort of thing. So make sure you're well supplied and you've got a few pens to keep writing your sales down with. Or if you're really tech savvy and you want to put it in your phone, go ahead. But you're not necessarily going to have time to do that, so I recommend just writing this stuff down. There will be slow parts during the sales, more than likely. Some sales you can be busy right up to closing. Other sales, it dies within a couple hours of opening. So you never know what the show's going to be like. Different shows have different kind of patterns of the way the public moves in and out. And getting a booth that's appropriate. If your location can sometimes matter. I happen to like being able to set up easily, being close to the loading doors, that sort of thing. Although in colder weather, when those doors are open, you're cold. Now, transporting your stuff, packing it in and out, be prepared to have a walk from your booth to the loading area. Sometimes you can drive right up to your booth, depending upon the show. Other times you're going to have to hike your stuff through doorways and possibly down flights of steps at times. So find out what kind of setup or access rather that you have to your booth. Shows vary depending upon the venues, so make sure that you're aware of what kind of access you've got. Packing in and out, or packing your stuff rather, some people use those big blue Rubbermaid tubs. I find them problematic because if they're heavy, they will crush. So stacking them up in your vehicle and such, you may end up crushing them. So it's kind of a crapshoot. I personally prefer to use wooden crates of all the same size, and then I can use those crates as display as well to maximize the space that I can put my merchandise. I put the crates on the side or upright and use the tops and insides of the crates in order to display stuff. I also use milk crates because they happen to fit the bins of hardware that I have. So they can be used as well, stacked up as well, and then a tablecloth put over top, or not, sometimes depending upon the show. But you can put a tablecloth over top and then put more merchandise kind of in front of your table, as long as it's not jutting out into the aisle. Some shows are really fussy about whether your table is jutting in the aisle by a few inches. Others don't really care. It can be, it can impede on the aisle a little bit, but they have to deal with fire regulations and such as well. So be aware of your expenses as well. If you're traveling to shows that are 2 days, 3 days, etc., you're going to have to deal with hotel costs unless you can stay with somebody in that particular city, a friend or family. Occasionally the show promoter has offered lodging as well, if you know them well. Now, you've also got fuel costs as well. Remember that. Food costs. Hopefully you can be friendly with, if you're going alone, that is, you can be friendly with the next door neighbor or adjacent booth so they can keep an eye on your stuff while you go grab a bite to eat. Usually there's food vendors and such, but find out first whether there is or not, because not all venues have food offered, so you may have to pack a lunch in. So be aware how far away you are from the venue with your hotel. You'll have to factor in that time travel as well. And, saving $10 on your hotel room, is it really worth the hassle to travel across the city, an unknown city at that, to get to the venue? A lot of shows have rules about when you can pack up at the end. It's very tempting that if you're having a crappy show to start packing up early. In some cases, that'll get you banned from future shows. Other cases, it's not going to matter, depending upon how relaxed the promoters of the show are. I try not to get packing up too early. I get my booth kind of prepped a bit, straighten things up a little bit, just kind of do some pre-packing activities, straightening up my supplies, that sort of thing, behind the scenes, rather than being out in the public area of the tables, packing up and interrupting potential customers coming by. So it doesn't look good, but sometimes it's so dead that people start packing up early, so be kind of prepared for that. But like I said, some rules for some shows that can get you banned from future shows. So, and it doesn't look good. It really doesn't. It happens a lot. Like I said, it's frustrating when you've had a crappy show and you just want to go home. But try to avoid that. There's usually plenty of time to pack up. So, and you know, face it, if you're one of the last ones to leave, it's easier loading. Nobody's in your way. But some people are in and out pretty fast, depending upon what they carry, what kind of merchandise they carry. If they're packing a lot of glass and china, the wrapping takes a while, especially if you're doing it solo. If you've got a partner to do this with, a spouse, a relative, a friend, whatever, it really helps speed up things in general. Another little tip is to be careful when you're unloading and loading, especially if you've got a bad back or something like that, because you really don't want to be suffering through the whole show. So try to be careful when you're moving stuff, and don't strain your back. Have your potential meds set aside, because you're still going to have to do the show even though you've put your back out. So yeah, so be careful. Have a little first aid kit or something is handy, some aspirin, that sort of stuff, in case you've got a headache in the middle of the show. So yeah. Now, there's probably lots of things I've forgotten, but if you have any particular questions or specific inquiries, leave a comment below, and maybe I'll be able to do a video on them and answer those questions in the comment, of course. If I get enough questions, like I said, I'll just answer it all in one long video. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and check out other videos on antiquing, picking, thrifting, scrapping, etc. Take care, folks.